Okay. Yeah, it's recording.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I'd better get a comb.
Okay, so I'm just going to do them in order. So the Yvonne is the first ones up. So I have a spreadsheet for downloading data. So yes, I would suggest that you put them into a software database. What I tend to do is I keep them in Excel. I've written this morning about using a spreadsheet akin to a train station, so people don't go on holiday.
I saw that.
Yeah.
It's like holding pen. You turn up, eventually go on a train to go on your holidays, and it's the same thing. I keep them in a spreadsheet with the view that I'm going to move them into there at some point, which is why I want to get them all married, because then they can get into my database. Otherwise, I've got half and half. I'm going to show you my new spreadsheet, which is much better than my old spreadsheet, in a little while. Would you envisage a master spreadsheet? Well, it depends. I have had a master spreadsheet, but it's just another thing I have to remember to fill in. The only thing I do keep kind of reasonably up to date is if I've downloaded another lot of material from somewhere, and it's in a spreadsheet, I keep a note of where I've put it. So there's a school in Canada, I think it's the School of Notre Dame, and there is, I think it's Quebec, I think it is, and I downloaded some material from there. That's a separate spreadsheet, and I just keep it in there. And so my master spreadsheet, all it does, it just tells me what I've got and where I've got it.
Right.
It's not in a general scheme of things in what you would think of as a master spreadsheet, which would be...
Well, I thought it probably wouldn't be possible. Like, I've got my birth, marriage, death ones from FreeBMD. Now, they're all in one spreadsheet with separate worksheets for births, marriages, deaths, and the two variants are there. So there's a whole load of sheets, but all on birth, marriage. The same for censuses. Like I've got 1841, Ireland, Ireland, and Ireland. But I couldn't see how I could combine them on the same spreadsheet unless I knew they were definitely the same person. So that's why I wondered about eventually a master spreadsheet with every field on. Could be impossible.
Yeah, I think, and that's another reason why I always start from the point of view of a marriage, is because after they're married, you can then look to their children, and you can look to their births. You've already got their father, hopefully, from their marriage record. And then you can start recording where they are in each census and then who's with them. And that's when you can be looking at the fact that they've got, I don't know, they had 3 servants, or there was 9 people in a one-room place. You know, you've got the chance then to absorb it all. The one thing I would say is, and I don't know whether it's actually on here, I'll come to that in a bit actually. Next question, how do you deal with variants? Yeah, in the same file. So, and I keep them in the same file. And the reason I never used to at the beginning, and the reason I didn't was, to me, it was like, well, that's probably going to be different people.
Breaking up a bit for me. It might be my computer.
Can you hear me all right, Lim?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Until I came across a divorce record, and in the divorce record, the husband was the one who had filed.
Everything's frozen.
Is it? I'm still here, so
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to carry on because it's recorded. So with this divorce record, the husband is the one that's kind of been wronged. He goes through the divorce papers. There's a copy of the marriage certificate in the actual record, and he says vehemently that the marriage was recorded wrong, and the marriage was recorded as a butcher, but actually his name was Butchers. And at that
Yeah.
moment, I realised, you know what? I'd rather than have it all muddled up, I needed to put the two together. So I was able to merge it into, I just, you know, exported the GEDCOM and imported it, and did it that way. And I did the same with my spreadsheet, imported it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I must admit, I've leaning towards putting it all in one file, because I think I explained on one of the forum posts, I've got family on the 1851 census that are direct ancestors, but it's spelt differently on two censuses. You know, because it's down to the enumerator for spelling it right.
Yeah, and sometimes even if they knew the correct way of spelling, they'd make a mistake and think, oh, do you know what, I can leave that. So, and also it depends it depends on how you've got to your variant. So if you know actual people, and that's how you've acquired your variant, so you're saying, well, this is how it's spelled, but that's the variant, because you can see it's been misspelled. For my Orlando study, I looked at the Italian script, the actual writing, and actually if there's been, you know, a bit wobbly in terms of how they've wrote it, then actually that last O on the Orlando name can become an A or an E.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I kind of took a bit of a gamble in that. Sometimes they occasionally drop the O, but I'm used to them doing that. But Orland is a very separate surname. It's only been at particular periods of time when it wasn't very fashionable to be Italian did they drop the O. So Second World War, for example. But my people never dropped the O. They just were like, they hate us. I'm okay with that kind of view. So next question. Is TNG an option for organising a presentation? Is it better as a standalone or a WordPress? Oh, that's kind of personal choice. I don't have mine with WordPress. I will tell you why. I looked at a couple of members that had their study and they'd used the WordPress. And I don't know whether it was the theme, because you get a different selection of themes that you can use.
Yeah.
And one of them had got writing you couldn't read very well. So they had this beautiful picture, and then they had used the color of the font on the introduction, and it was just unreadable. And I just didn't like it. So what I did was I went round to a few people who I knew had TNG, whether standalone or in the project, and looked at what they'd got so far, which is how I've built mine. Have you both looked at mine?
Yes.
No, not in detail. No.
Don't know if I can share my screen if I dare do that, although I'm just being real clever.
We'll all disappear.
I've looked at a few. And it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is a lot of work to build the site, but it's really easy once you've got the hang of it. So it's this kind of learning curve. Let me see whether I can. I've got my window open already, so let me just see if I can share it.
Yeah, at least it was easy to write the study profile on there.
Yeah, and the study profile on the website is it changes over time as you evolve and as your study. So the more comfortable you get with actually doing the study, and the more comfortable you get with the process that you've got, So you'll know. So I'm going to go in. I've got something I want to do later on if I've got chance. And I'm going to go in and fiddle with my Orlando study profile because I need to do a bit of a tweak with it.
Yes. Well, I've got mine 3 times.
I need to go and have a look at yours. Did they come back to you to tell you why?
Yes, they have come back to me. Karen got back to me on a Sunday, which I thought was lovely of her. And she said in the end she didn't, well, she started out saying she'd look into it. She didn't know what it was. And got back to me only about half an hour later and said it was nothing to do with me. Apparently 2 people before me have registered Ireland. And something behind the index is playing up and they've not disappeared. So although it's populated with my profile, there are 3 different links because of these other 2 people who apparently did Ireland. They must have given up because of the numbers.
Perhaps, you know,
or died.
Well, that's what I was going to say is that, you know, you kind of get people perhaps in like their twilight years, maybe.
Like me.
But, you know, you can't always.
No.
You know,
well, none of us know what's around the corner, do we? So, you know.
No.
Exactly. No. I am still thinking about sharing the screen. Advanced sharing options. Let's see if it's in there.
Yeah.
I think it wants to tell me what I can share and what I can't. I don't quite know why it's telling me that. I hadn't clicked the button enough. Okay, so it'll give.
Oh, right.
Okay, so can you see that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes,
so,
there we are.
So when you first start off, so when you decide you're going to go for this kind of site, you just fill the application in on the website.
Yep.
And the guys will set it up for you. And you can normally tell what theme you've got by who set it up. So I know, for example, this was probably set up by Jim Benedict. If you get the profile that's got red on it, it's Jim Culbert. And I just know that because of how they've got their site. But you can go in and you can change how it looks.
Right.
Now, I've been through and changed it and fiddled with it over time. I don't like the brown, but I'm prepared to put up with the brown because I like the way it displays. The only bit that you might find tricky by that depends on how computer literate you are, is that all this at the front here, the background, the information there is written in HTML. Now, that's only a problem if you don't realise that there's actually a site out there that you can in fact write it in Word and then just go to the site and it will convert your Word document, just copy and paste it in, and then it spits out the HTML, and then you just copy and paste it. And that's, so I'm not, you know, you just have to know, I suppose, where you look.
Right. I'll make a note of that.
Yeah, and I'll try and find you the link that I used.
Yeah.
Okay, so that applies to everyone with this. It's all in HTML.
This front bit is, yeah.
Yeah, righto.
So that's that. You can have media. So this is the other thing with it takes a while to get to grips with the terminology. So TNG, it's only fed by a GEDCOM. So that's the GEDCOM I've taken out of. That's the GEDCOM I've just taken out of Roots Magic, and then I put it into this, and that's it populated.
Yeah.
So having them populated it, it then captures the media is what it calls photos, documents, everything that's an illustrative point on your study is referred to as media.
Right.
So you can upload it. It sounds complicated, but it really isn't. And the guys are great in terms of what they'll help you with, just to get you up and running. Now, if you want to have a look at some sites that have got WordPress and TNG, I would say look at the Heenan site,
Right.
and the Caldecott site.
Right.
If I write down what I've just said to you, then I'll be able to hopefully remember to just put a little note on it.
There we go.
If you have, I mean, I have, you know, you can see I've got a standalone blog. So I just, at the very bottom here, I've got a link. And that, in fact, leads just to my butcher section on my site. Just because it's easier to do that.
Right.
So, right, having shared my screen, let me try and unshare my screen.
So I assume at the bottom where you've got those top surnames, it does that automatically.
Yes, you mean this bit here?
Yeah.
Yeah, right down the bottom.
Yeah. So, so actually, I'm glad you pointed that out, actually, because I did want to tell you here. So when you go into, you'll see various people. So Marie Byatt, for example, will go on about how she doesn't have trees, she has branches. I don't know why she does that, but it's the way she's wired, I guess. I don't do that. I have trees, and that's it. So I have trees. Now I only really have kind of 2, but you'll see actually there's more than 2 trees here. So I've got my main file, which is my family, and you'll see it's got some dodgy sourcing, but I've just got to fix that. My one name study file is quite small, only because I'm in the process of doing some more fiddling. And then I've got 2 other files that are going to be added, just because I've got to put the material somewhere, and I've chosen to put it here. Because that way the names will populate in that bottom bit. And then when somebody searches for a surname, it will appear. So, so you can see, I've got a file here where I imported a file from my cousin. And this is why I would say never import direct, because I learnt the hard way. For a start, she uses AKA for also known as, which drives me bonkers. And also the file she uses was in Family Tree Maker, which is not a great program. It's even worse since it's no longer linked to Ancestry. It wasn't until I'd uploaded the GEDCOM to this site, well, to my site, that I realised some of the notes that was attached to various people. So my cousin, for example, the note tells me where she was born and how heavy she was. But it's not in the note section, that's in the source section.
Right.
So before I moved house, I printed all the details out, and I've gradually gone through them. I try and do about 5 or 10 a day, something like that. But I haven't done 5 or 10 a day since I've moved here. So I still have about 130 to do. It's just on. It was just bad luck, but I didn't know it was going to do that until I uploaded my site. And I thought, you know what, I can't be bothered to take my site down. I'd much rather have it populated, even if it looks odd for now. Because, you know, we're only human, and that's just the way that it is.
Yeah.
Well, I have just finished extracting from my massive family file, because it's both mine and my husband's families, and I've got 320 or so Ireland's, and then just the spouse. I've not bothered with spouse's parents, or I'm sticking with Ireland except for the spouse. So I thought, is it worth just putting that many in to start with?
You could update your TNG site every hour if you wish to.
Oh God, no.
You don't have to, and in fact, at the beginning, you probably will. You'll add something, it won't look right, so you'll go in and fiddle with it.
Sounds like the profile.
Yeah, exactly. But it's, and whilst you're just getting the hang of it, it just takes time.
Yeah.
And when you go in, I mean, I always tell it to just replace everybody. So even if I've not changed anything, I just tell it to just replace it all. That way you know where you are. My little thing's just come up on my screen telling me
Yes,
that,
I can see that.
Yes, yeah.
did you see it where it said they've removed the 40-minute limit?
Yeah, if we've got unlimited.
Yes.
Yeah, which excellent. We haven't got to worry about going into that other one. If I'd not been organised and not set it up, they wouldn't have done it. Right, are you all finished looking at that screen?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Right, let me see if I can stop.
Hello, who's joined us?
I think it might
Di.
be Di. Hi, Di.
Hi, Di.
Why I'm down as user, I haven't discovered, but that happened when I set up for the first meeting. For some reason, it didn't connect me. So I've sat here quite happily researching churches for the 17th of June, and then I decided to go out and come back in again, and it's finally let me in. I do apologise.
No, that's okay. I mean, I'm recording it, Di, so you'll be able to go back and see what we've talked about. I've covered I've covered Yvonne's questions pretty much.
Yes, they were very good questions.
Was there anything out of that, Yvonne, that you want me to expand or?
I don't think so at this stage. Knowing that there's no such thing as a true master spreadsheet sets my mind at rest.
Yeah.
I was thinking I might be missing something somewhere. I use spreadsheets fairly well, but I thought, oh, maybe there's something I haven't discovered yet. But it sounds, I think I'll be on top of it, I think. The TNG is going to take me for ages, I think.
Yeah.
To get on top of.
Yeah, because I was in two minds whether to do a website at all, but it's a way of preserving it all, isn't it? I noticed you said you'd put your whole family history on there. Obviously, you must be allowed to do it. So could I transfer from my family tree now? Well, when I get the TNG set up to it.
Yeah.
It's the full family history.
Yeah. If it links. So the way I look at it is that I've got two studies, one for each of my parents. So, but the way I split mine was that my main file, which is what I've called it, goes from me back through my mum, all the way through back to my mum's line, my English side effectively. Then it's got me marrying my husband Stuart, and then I've got his line in there. And I just leave it all in there. I'm way too lazy to be taking people out and working out. Because if you want to just remove some people, you have to remember what other surnames you've got linked to them. You know,
yeah.
And I can't be doing with that. I'm just way too lazy to do that.
Yeah.
And the guild really want people to preserve their work. Well, my mum's line, everything there links to the half of me that relates to a butcher family. So,
well, that's it. See, my mum's the Crossfield. Her maiden name was Crossfield. So that's my link.
Exactly.
I could put the whole tree on, which includes my dad's side, but as well, rather than split it.
Exactly. And you may well find, I mean, I've had this week, since the weekend, I've had 3 people write to me from the butcher site. Last week I didn't have anyone, so you could tell it was raining for the weekend, but it was, people will just, they'll find something on there that will just resonate with them, or they want to ask you a question. Very often it's that little box at the bottom with all the surnames in it, the top surnames. So yeah, it's a good way of having that on there, because it just gives you an idea of what's out there.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do that instead of just the islands.
Yeah, because
except there'll be thousands on thousands of them eventually.
the amount of space available for each member with this project, it's unlimited. There's no cap on it. And this was one of the first things we agreed on my first year on committee, was that we agreed this. We agreed as a pilot originally for, I think, 9 or 10 months. And then after about 6 months, we were asked if we could just agree to it as a service, and we did, because it was so great. I mean, considering the TNG team, which do the TNG bit, obviously, you know, no one's an expert. Everybody, I mean, we have people that, you know their stuff, but there's no one paid. Everyone just does it. And, you know, you just have to write to them and say, I'm stuck, or I've done this, and they'll fix it. And when you get your site set up, when you go into the users, you'll be in there with your membership number, but there'll be an admin in there, and so the guys can go in and fix something if something goes wrong.
Right. Yeah.
And you can add people. Now that brings me to another question, because, in fact, I'm going to just bypass your question for a minute, Lynn, and just go to Di's question.
Well, I don't need that question now, because you've answered that in the fact that, well, in my mind now, no, I don't need to put a spreadsheet on there, because everything's done by.
Yeah, if you want to keep a spreadsheet on there as just as somewhere to plonk it so that it's available.
I think that's was,
you can do that by just doing save as and save as a PDF and then upload it.
Yeah, right.
And if you want it, if you don't want people to see it, link it to yourself. Because you're still alive, you won't be visible on the program.
Right. Yeah. Get you. Yeah.
So I have every family history letter I've received in 30 years scanned on there, all linked to me.
Yeah.
Actually, I exist on there with an A after my name. So I'm listed on there as Julie, which is me, which you guys can't see because I am still living. But I'm on there again as a separate individual linked to me, and that's where all the stuff is that I don't want people to see. Once I'm dead, it can be, it's available.
Yeah.
But that's how I've done it. It's a workaround. As I told the chairman, I don't care if people don't like it. That's what I've done. And I don't see, he just laughed at me, but I think it's just a case of this. It's not like I've got, 3 million pictures of dodgy pictures, put it that way. They're all just regular stuff. So Di, to enable a cut outside the tree. Right, so if you go for a website, Di, you would be able to enable her to have a family member or even just a friend if they're helping you with the study, and you would be able to give them the access to go onto the site either as an admin, as a guest. There's different categories of access. So for example, I've got my husband on mine, and I've written Stuart instructions on what he would need to do if he ever needs to go into it. Now, I can only think of one occasion when he would need to go into it, and by then it'll be way too late to ask me. So I've written him a note. So, but he has got the same administrative rights as I have. I could, for example, put someone else on there who would be able to go in and can see the material. Some people have got it that if you register for a site, and there's a facility on there up by the login button, in tiny little writing, it says register for a site. Well, but that's where it is. It's a strange place to have it on the login screen. You can register, and some people have set it up on their own site in that if you've got, if you want other people to be able to register for a site and then send in material to you, they can. If you have somebody who you know really well and absolutely, completely trust, you might give them admin rights. So if you look at Paul House's site, his site is on the members website project. That's his archive. He actually has a site, his complete site is on a separate server, and he has a little team of people that help him, but nobody has access to his main database, because that's how he hasn't got in the issues that, like, some names are in capitals and that kind of thing, because he's got his rules of how he wants things to look, and he's got it right. And when I was looking at what sites were out there, Paul House's site was the one I went to, and that was the one that was my kind of, I wanted my site to look as good as that. Because there is something to me about the TNG. It looks nice and clean. The only criticism I would have of Paul's site is the writing's a bit small. But, you know, that's nothing. But he has, you know, newsletters on his site, for example. You're limited only by your imagination of what you collect for your study. And then add to your site. So there's that bit. In terms of family search, let me just make sure I've read that right.
Yeah, it was more a comment than anything else, but I've always been wary about putting anything onto the main sites, because I've been warned continually that other people will start adding to them and you lose control.
Yes and no. With the Guild has access with family search. If you go onto family search and go to the search tab and go to genealogies, there's actually a section on there, and it's got, I think it's called the Guild section. Let me just quickly open up a thing. But what it means is that you could upload a GEDCOM and no one else can change it. They've given us special super duper rights. So if I upload a tree just as me, anybody could add something to it under the family search thing. If I upload a tree via the Guild project, which is organised by Marie Byatt, no one can touch my tree.
Yeah. Sharon said that the last time I heard Sharon talking at West Surrey, she was saying that they're now calling it collaborative.
Yeah,
I don't know whether this is where some of the problems came, but I mean, I haven't done anything with family search since I've been on the course, because there hasn't been time. But,
I know.
But it started, as they started putting hints in, I found they were giving me several names that looked identical, but their ID numbers for each one of them, where I thought they should have been the same person. There were 3 ID numbers, and that confused me.
Yeah,
it's just a comment to everybody else, I think, to, you know, to sort of to watch out.
Yeah, and what you're saying is right. If you just log in as you and upload a GEDCOM, if you actually go to the site, go to search and then pick genealogies, it will actually come up and allow you to add a GEDCOM file, but you have to go through Marie Byatt to get the special rules, which means they won't touch your stuff, basically. And
I haven't got a GEDCOM to upload. It's never been sophisticated enough, so, which is why I've got Family Historian for my one name study. It's actually on a separate computer, but that only, my interest ends in the surname in 1850, because that's when she marries into the Law family, and it was a Law cousin who I wanted to allow him to be able to put stuff onto family search, because I'm not overly fussed about it.
Yeah.
And I want to foster his interest. I am interested, though, because I have a Helstrip cousin in York who at the moment is still working, I would imagine, frantically hard, because he's a bookseller, so he's had, and he's not online, doesn't normally sell online. But he's given me a great deal of help, because he did all his long before the internet came along. I've only had to make one change, and that was because he thought that Brompton, where one of the ancestors was born, was Brompton by Northallerton, and it's not, it's Brompton on Swale. I go and see him when I'm in York. And
can you all hear that other noise?
yeah.
Yes. Someone talking about quarantine.
I'll get hubby to turn telly down. He's got telly on, so hang on a second.
All right.
Turned it off. That's even better.
It's better for the sound effects, they tell me.
And sometimes you don't know whether it's like being in a phone box and the person next to you is also talking, and you can hear their conversation, but not the actual person you're just paying to talk to, if you see what I mean. That's all the questions. Was there any other questions that you want? Or hang on, have I missed one of yours, Lynn?
Mine were the same as Yvonne's. The only question I had was about spreadsheets, I think, was it?
Yeah.
Which you've answered, so that's fine.
Yeah, just PDF it.
Yeah.
And then you could upload that as a.
Yeah, because I just noticed on some of the other websites, not the TNG ones, there were spreadsheets on there, and I thought, oh, it's a good idea, because at least then you feel as if your work's not gone to waste. But
yeah, if you're using a WordPress site, so if you look at my Anglers Rest site, there is the ability. I've actually got some downloaded files, and you can download the research and to do log that I've got on there. That's in Excel. And it will just download it, and so you can upload it just into WordPress. That works well. If you've just got a spreadsheet and you just want to archive it so that you don't lose the stuff on it, or you can just attach it to yourself, as I talked to you about, by PDF, and that works. Now I wanted to quickly show you the spreadsheet that I've got. So when I started, I don't know which fits this course or the practical course. I can't remember. This is the trouble, is that they all start to merge after a while. And it's only when someone tells you that they don't know what you're talking about, do you realise what's... it might
like
be
my ancestors.
Yeah, well, it just seems to merge.
One woke me up at 3 o'clock this morning complaining that he was in the strays file. He wasn't in the strays file. He was just sitting in America. If I would only actually put two sets of files together. That's a mystery solved.
Yeah, I had a boss once who told me there are filers and pilers, and I'm a piler, I think. Which
I spent a great deal of time recently, though, trying to file the pilers.
Yeah, I asked my husband actually what he would do for in a particular instance, and he gave me this very process-driven. I would do this, he said. It was like, yeah, but that won't work that way because there's too many places to look. I need to take out some of those steps. You know, you have to keep it simple. Is probably my best piece of advice, because if you make it complicated, it's too much. If you need a crib sheet to tell you where to find something, you've made your process too complicated. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So at the very beginning, I downloaded, well, originally at the beginning, I wrote them all down, you know, pencil. When we got the internet, I just downloaded the Excel file into, well, I downloaded it from FreeBMD and then just copied and pasted it. And then I've only done this in the last, I don't know, within the last year. The only spreadsheet I keep really up to date is the marriages spreadsheet. The reason for that is that I know how far through I am. and I can tell how much I've got to do in terms of the marriages. Now, I've got something like 38,000 marriages for Busher between 1837 and 1983. And there's a lot online, obviously, in terms of Find My Past and Ancestry. Family Search, you've got quite a lot of material online these days, and you can very often you will find what you would normally pay £11 for, but the record, from the GRO, if they married in a church, you've just got the same information there, just the only difference, obviously, the registrar. So you've got that to fall back on. But I was talking to, I think it was Peter Copsey, probably maybe 18 months ago, and we were looking at, so I'm just trying to share my screen again. We were looking at, he was talking to me about marriage challenges, and that, we were getting close to doing them because there was so much stuff online. So and you'll notice, I think it's in week 4, there's a whole thing about what's a marriage challenge. So the person, one of you effectively, but last year was somebody who was in the States. They didn't know what a marriage challenge was because everything is at state level. The whole concept of what the GRO is was just lost on them. So I had to go back and explain it. So having explained it and going through the detail, I directed them to the spreadsheet, because my view is, if you're researching a British name, typically, the marriage challenges, if one comes up and you've got a reference to it, just submit, and the person then goes to the records office and looks for it. So when I went to direct the person to download the spreadsheet, this is what you can see on the screen. Can you see that Excel spreadsheet?
Yeah.
That is mostly the marriage challenge spreadsheet, okay? I say mostly because I've added some bits to it. So I'm now in the process of wasting even more of my time in filling in the gaps from my other spreadsheet, because it's useful to being able to see how far through I am in terms of the marriages, but also in terms of, so this bit here is part of the marriage challenge bit, because obviously I wouldn't fill that in because I know who I am.
Today you do, tomorrow you might not.
Exactly. Those fields there are the additional fields that I've added in, because that way I know whether I've got a certificate or it was a marriage challenge. And have I added it to the Guild Index? Well, it's useful to add to the Guild Indexes because it might help somebody else, but also because obviously every marriage has another party that might link in to another study. And then have I added it to TNG? By that I mean, have I added the certificate to TNG? So in that whole process, I add the marriage into my Roots Magic, I add the marriage certificate up, or the photo certificate up to TNG, I export the GEDCOM, upload it into TNG, and then I attach the marriage certificate to the individuals in question, and it's done, which is why I've got it like this. So that's kind of back to my question, my point to you that I made earlier, in that I don't have all the answers. This is by far a much better spreadsheet. And I got fed up with having to keep on reproducing the details every time somebody was offering to do a marriage challenge and they wanted it on this spreadsheet. I had to copy it all out from my spreadsheet into a different spreadsheet to send to them. And I just couldn't be doing with it. It was just too much of a faff all the time. So I went through and did it this way. And works. Now I've got lots of white gaps on it because I just need to bring that other information into this from my other spreadsheet. But that might be something that you guys want to think about. It depends how many entries you have on your spreadsheet. You know, if you've got as many as I've got, it's a significant piece of work. I haven't done the Orlandos yet. So this is how my spreadsheet did look. Oh, I have done it. Look at that. I have done it. It's just not quite. So I've only got for Orlando in England and Wales, there's about how many? 80, I think. I actually thought there was they came in waves to England, or to England and Wales. There's very few. But again, I've got some bits and pieces I need to do. You find that very often they would often go home and marry. Meant then that the marriage isn't here. So I think it's a case of, I'm trying to illustrate to the point that it's not a case of having all the answers, is that even if you've been doing it for a while, you will perfect your process.
Yeah.
And that's okay with that, because you'll suddenly realise you've been doing something that's taking you way too long and you don't think you need to do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yes. So
I
is it
I went
normal?
on the marriage index and did find some details that I didn't know for other crossfields.
Yeah.
I had a quick look the other day, so I've got them to put onto my spreadsheet because it's information I've now gained.
Yeah. I found 3 pages of islands.
Oh, that's all right.
I thought so. Whoa.
Yeah.
Someone did the work for me.
And sometimes you just find bits and pieces, and it may just sit in your where you keep your study until you get to it. I have a box across the other side of the room, plus the filing cabinet, all for my study. And I will get to it at some point. If not, my husband knows what he needs to do with the box. But he comes in here and every now and again says, I'm going to have a really good burn up because there's lots of... I know he wouldn't, but he always says it to me because he knows I will deviate from the screen and say, you leave my room alone. But
it's called trouting. You rise to the lure.
Yes, exactly. But it's just your study will always progress as you get more comfortable, as you perfect your own rhythm of working. If that makes sense.
And do you think it's easier to work in tandem with a website at the same time and do it as you go along?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I do. Because you wouldn't be in the position I'm in with 9 drawers in the filing cabinet, and I'm going to have to spend probably 5 years of my life scanning. I have even considered just putting it all in the loft and starting afresh, because I don't want to have to spend time scanning. It's incredibly boring. But I can't quite bring myself to do it.
So, when you know you've got it, it's there.
Yeah, I just think, even if you, and it may be that what you do is that you go to, I don't know, the National Archives of Australia site, you put your surname in and see how many entries come up in the search index. And what I like about the National Archives of Australia site is that if somebody has paid to digitize a record, when it's been digitized, they allow it to sit there for the next person.
Unlike, that's good.
Unlike us, where you have to pay again. So, you may well download a whole load of stuff and know you've got it, but you could actually download that stuff, add it to your database, upload it in one almost continuum process. But if you don't want to do it that way, you just leave it on the pile and do it in the next update. I mean, someone like Paul Howes, he updates his website, come what may, on the 1st of every month. I did at the beginning. I haven't done now because I moved house. I spent most of last year writing the surname booklet. Then I moved on to write the course material for the practical course. So I've not really had significant time to sit and get my teeth into something and follow it through to the end. But I will do. It's just a bit of extra time that I need. So it doesn't matter if you've got, so I most definitely agree that it's the best thing to do is to have the site and to keep it moving along in synchrony, basically.
Yeah. Interesting.
Now, was there anything else from Wednesday's chat that you wanted to ask me?
Oh,
Don't think so.
no. No, I
I've still
think
got to
it was.
register my name. Let's get on with it.
Oh, tut. By the way, Lynn, I have a Thomas Crossfield Ireland, but I can't find out where he got the name.
It'll be there somewhere.
It's got to be, yeah.
I'm searching to see where in the family it is.
I'll bear that one in mind myself, because you never know, I might find it from my end.
Yeah.
Pass the
they
name
were
across,
born-
because a Crossfield might marry into the family and she'll come across it first.
Yeah, well, that's right. It would be in Lancashire, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was very popular in Lancashire, was Crossfield. My lot were from Yorkshire, but
yeah,
there was a lot in
the
Lancashire.
wrong side of the Pennines.
Oh no, I'm the right side of the Pennines.
Careful. I'm a Lancashire lass.
Birds have
Lots
wings.
of the roses again.
Anyway.
I wrote that on Crossfield Island. Yeah, because you never know, I might come across it first.
You might. Yeah, it was just I saw it and I thought, oh, Lynn's got Crossfield.
Yeah. Was it 1S or 2?
Can I tell you
a
story about that? A friend was over from Australia. What I was doing on Thursday was suddenly cancelled. And she was staying in Woking, so I phoned her up and said, look, I'm free tomorrow. Would you like me to take you to the National Archives? Yes, please. So all the way up, she was telling me about her 3 times great aunt, who was a Mormon from Salt Lake City. So I said to her, well, you don't know anything about her. Go and see Family Search, because they're in the same building, which of course she wasn't to know. No, she was too busy. Anyway, she got finished early. And when I met up with her, she was somewhere walking about 20 feet above the ground. Because my advice to her was, write the name down. Don't let them palm you off with a computer. Just say you want to know about this. And she gave it to the right person, because that person looked at her great aunt's surname and said, oh, we've got a research worker from Salt Lake here, and that's her middle name. They phoned her up, and it transpired that she was 3 times great aunt, 2 times great grandmother of the researcher.
Well, there you go.
Small world, isn't it? Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And it so nearly didn't happen.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Just that her son, who was coming to meet us, texted to say he was going to be late.
Serendipity.
Well, like I walked into a bookshop in York, and the guy wanted to know which family, and I told him, and I said, why do you know so much about them? He said, I am one. We share my 3 times great grandfather, but he's a generation younger.
Right.
Yeah.
I think sometimes things just happen, don't they?
They do.
It's just chance. I went in to have surgery 2016, and the anaesthetist came to see me, and he said to me, no, that's a name I'm really familiar with. Now, very few people have ever heard my surname, let alone say it right. And it's obviously my husband's name. So I said, so you know the name Goucher? Yes, he said, I married one. So he said to me, so I just made a flippant remark, and I just said, well, you know, I said, take my email address off my record. It's not a problem, and you know, get your wife to email me. And I went into theatre. Things did not go well in theatre, and I ended up spending 2 weeks in the hospital.
Oh.
But the anaesthetist came to see me before I went up to the ward, and I was still really, really woozy. And he told me that he'd taken my email address, and I said to him, "Oh, you know, can you give your details to my husband? He's out in the waiting room." So he did that, and his wife wrote to me, and they are definitely related. The trouble is that you've got this small little patch between sort of Chesterfield and Bullsover in Derbyshire, and they go between Goucher and Gocher depending on, I don't know whether it's perhaps accents or what it was, but sometimes the U becomes an A, and there is this connection. But his wife's written to me a number of times, and we've had some communication. But the funny thing was, he said to me that he wasn't supposed to have been working that day. He only did that shift was because he wanted to go somewhere else with his wife, and he changed shifts with another anaesthetist.
Yeah.
Some things are just meant to be. But he lived not more than, I don't know, 7 or 8 miles from where I just spent 22 years living. And it's just, sometimes it's just the way the dice roll, isn't it?
Yeah.
Serendipity.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a nice, I don't know, sometimes it's just nice, but it most certainly frustrated me, because then I spent 2 weeks in the hospital and I couldn't access any of my files.
Didn't you send for them?
Sorry,
Didn't you send for them? Didn't you ask for your computer?
No, I had my iPad with me. I think if I'd asked my husband to bring me my file, I think he probably would have had a meltdown, because I only went in for day surgery.
Well, yes, it happens.
So I went in for day surgery, and he said he was waiting there to take me home, and he could see that there were people going up to the desk and leaving. And then he said, then they brought me a drink and a sandwich, and he said, and then I knew there was definitely a problem, because they were being ultra nice. He said, and then the consultant came out and spoke to him in the waiting room. So if I'd asked my husband, oh, would you mind bringing my Goucher file, I think he would have absolutely had a meltdown. You know, just because if you're not prepared for something, some people can just handle those bumps in the road better than others.
It's easier for you as the patient to accept it, because you don't really care. When something's gone wrong, they need to put it right, and you sit back and trust them. For somebody else, it's a far bigger deal than it is for you.
Yeah, I would agree with you, actually. It was quite hard for my husband, because our house sale fell through because of that. So he wouldn't even know where to have looked, in which box, because by that point I was in such a lot of pain as I was packing. Well, we came to, because my house sale fell through, when I needed to do some unpacking, I had things packed in some very strange places. So, you know, and there are some things now we still haven't found, and I don't know whether I just chucked them out or what I did, but anyway, such is life, I guess. So I'm just looking at this list, just make sure I've covered everything off. So if you want to look at the WordPress site, look at the Heenan site and the Caldecott site. They look particularly good, using both TNG and WordPress. I've answered that one.
So what did you say you use? I know you use TNG, but is it?
I use Roots Magic.
Yeah.
Oh, that was it. Somebody in the chat last week asked me how my website looked the way that it looked. Was it one of you?
No, it was, I remember it being asked, but I'm not sure who it was. Yeah.
So I use Roots Magic. I export the GEDCOM file, import it into TNG, and have you ever seen what a GEDCOM file looks like if you print it out?
No, it's just
Bits of it.
It's just all kind of what I would say is just gobbledygook. You just can't work it out.
Yeah.
It takes all that and displays it in that TNG, which is why it's a nice piece of kit, because it is a good way of just illustrating, I guess. It takes a file and allows it just to display perfectly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I use Roots Magic.
Yeah, you see, that's what I've got. I've got Roots Magic, but I've only ever done my family tree on it. And I'm thinking, well, how can you put a lot of people that are not connected onto it? I know I have to start a new file and then just upload them as standalone people.
Yeah. And that was the thing that I could not overcome that when I first started. I couldn't get my head around. It's like, how come these people aren't all connected to each other?
Yeah.
But one day the penny just dropped. And once I'd started adding people in, it became so much easier. I've got my Roots Magic file open. Now I've got this on version 6 at the moment.
Yeah. I've got whichever we're on at the minute. 7. Actually, while we're on, is anybody thinking of getting Roots Magic? Because I have a free code for 7.
Ooh. I'm waiting for 8 to come out.
Yeah, well, I've got a free code for that one as well, but that's mine. Yeah, but I have a free code if anybody wants 7.
I use Legacy, and I think I'd better keep with it.
Yeah.
Because I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with Legacy.
No, actually, I quite like it.
Is there much difference between 6 and 7?
I don't know, because I started with 7.
See, I started with Family Origins 4, went all the way through to 10. Then I changed my laptop, and I went to Roots Magic and started on 6. And then it was one of those things, I need to go to 7, I need to go to 7, I need to go to 7. And then it's like, oh, do you know what? I think I'll just wait for 8 to come out.
Yeah. You see, 8's going to be the big rewrite. So, yeah.
And that's what I'm
looking. I might put it on the group, actually, if anybody wants Roots to try the essentials. And then if they think they want to go for it, they can have the code. It's sat here doing nothing. I've got Roots Magic 7. And this code is still valid. Yes. And it'll unlock it for someday. They could have the full thing then.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me show you, because there was something I should want to mention, actually. That's about the numbering. If you've got Roots Magic anyway, you'll know what it looks like, but it just gives you a sense. And there's not too much disparity between this and Legacy in that regard, the numbering. So I just clicked out of that and realised I want to share my screen.
Yes, it was Pat who asked about how you got your website to look the way it did. I just looked it up.
Oh, thank you. Share screen. So what I've got here is I've got 2 files. The one on this side, one on the left of the screen, the one that says George Butcher at the top, that's my study file.
Right.
Now, you'll see I don't know much about George. All I know is that I've got an Alice who was born in Bangalore in India, and she was the daughter of George Butcher and Lucy, which is why there's so little. But can you see on the side here?
Yeah.
The numbers there. So that's why it doesn't matter too much if you've got unconnected people. Now, if I'm looking for something, so I'm just trying to remember when it was. Sometime last year, I was doing some work on a Butcher family from somewhere in Somerset. And for generations, they had the same first name. The only thing that was different was their middle name. So all I did was, when I just went through it, I drew out, because I like drawing out on pencil on a bit of paper, it helps me think. And then I could just write down which person and which number, so that I made sure that when I entered it into the program, I'd got the right stuff with the right George. That number next to it is useful to have on it, but when you put that onto TNG, that number doesn't, it's not visual, you know, you can see it as the admin, but it's not kind of there.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
This one.
Who gives it the number, Julie?
Sorry, say that again.
Who gives it? Where does the number come from?
As I enter something in, Roots Magic automatically populates with that number. So it does it automatically. So I don't know what number I've got up to now, but the next person I enter in will get the next number in the, as far as I've got up to, it will just be +1.
Yep.
And then this one is my actual file. And I don't know which course it is. It might even be this one, where I think it's this one, where I've given you an extract of a timeline.
Yes, you did give us a timeline for one.
Yeah, for Daniel.
I remember.
Yeah, it'll be for Daniel, because I wrote it out. Because it helps me think if I have just a handwritten extraction of what he was doing and when he was doing it.
Yeah.
And it just helps. I think it was week 4, lesson 4. Yeah, lesson 4. So that's the written extraction.
Mm-hmm.
That is the actual file. So you'll see there's I've got lots of miscellaneous, because I've got to get the document out the filing cabinet, because I've got copies of all of them. And he's led me quite a dance as Daniel. And there are some, I don't know how to explain it. There are some real odd things going on. He marries eventually in Sussex, which is where I thought he probably did marry. There's a lot of back and to and fro in between the Surrey and Sussex border, which I did kind of expect. He has a daughter in Bramley when he's 41. That's his first daughter, by which point he's been married 15 years. Now, he then has a second child in 1775 when he's 55. Now, you would think with those kind of gaps, I've missed a generation in between, except that I've got documents that support that him and his wife are definitely the parents. And his wife's maiden name is given. So it got me thinking around, well, you know, we kind of assume that people had children really, really easily, when actually just infertility and health conditions that perhaps cause fertility issues aren't necessarily new.
Did he already have a daughter?
No, he was 25 when he marries, and I know who he marries. I've got the marriage record. I've got all the other documents in between. I've managed to link both children to him and his wife. But there was these gaps that I find really troubling. But I know that the children are right, but I've got lots of gaps. Now, either his wife had problems conceiving, or there were lots of miscarriages, which was possible. or of course she was young, because this is all before they married in 1745.
Yeah.
So you could be as young as 12.
Yeah.
Which was the way things rolled back then, you know. That was how you managed to keep your estates going and land going. And this branch of the Butcher family were actually they were wealthy in their own way. They had lots of trading between buying fields and buildings, and him and his brother Richard seemed to have this kind of buddy act going on, and they constantly seemed to be buying and selling. And then something happens, and he's mentioned you probably can see it here, mentioned in Letitia Hammond's will. The Hammonds connect to the Butchers in a very strange way, and he's written out, she leaves him the £10 she lent him, but she leaves his wife and his daughter money. She obviously didn't like Daniel. You could tell that just by the way the sentence is written in the will.
Well, perhaps he didn't pay it back.
Well, I don't think he did pay it back. I think he was,
That's what I mean. She didn't like the fact that he didn't pay it back.
Yeah, I don't know whether there's something else going on that I've missed. Then he's written out of his brother's will. This is the brother he's been buying and selling houses with, and buildings and various things. And then he leaves. He was originally on the Vacherie Court at Shear, and then he leaves the manorial court, and he dies in 1787. There is, you know what it's like when you just know there's something not right, but you can't put your finger on it? I don't know what it is. It's a shame he did most of this in Surrey, not Sussex. The West Sussex Record Office have got, their catalogue is excellent, because they've actually used the description box and given you an accurate description. Unlike my native Surrey, which appears to have just plonked the minimum in. So I've spent most of lockdown through this COVID, going through the long way through the West Sussex Record Office, looking for any reference to Butcher, all the Simmons, and a number of other family names that link into this family, extracting the detail so I can kind of build up a better picture of it. And it has helped. It's taken me 3 months to do one records office. I had hoped in 3 months I would have done East Sussex too, but I've not quite managed it. So this is the computer bit that you can see of that one that's actually quite faint. In the course materials, because I wrote it in green ink, so it's quite pale. But it just gives you a sense of just the timeline, just putting it into a structure. And yes, this is my family, but he's part of my study. But I've done this for people in my study. You'll just get some people in your study that will just drive you bonkers, because you just have to know, spend a lot of time on them for whatever reason. But the one thing I will say to you is, for every time you've got a fact, create the fact. So if you've got a document, create the fact in your program, enter it in, and then use the source citation. And for those of you that do the practical course, you'll hear me bang on about the citations on a fairly regular basis. Well, pretty much weekly, and through all the practical bits. It's just, it gives you a sense of just making sure that you've extracted every single piece of information that's there that you know, so that you know what you don't know, if that makes sense. Because what you don't know is just as important as what you do know.
Can I ask a daft question? The record above, where you've highlighted, where it says selling victuals.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? Because victuals currently is a stationer's in Guildford, I'm
Yes,
told it's an old Guildford family.
it is. Selling Biddles. Biddles was a property in Bramley, and it was a house called Biddles.
Right.
Whether it's linked to the stationery shop, and that is definitely, that shop is where I probably got my love of stationery. You could just go in there and it just had this wonderful smell, and you could just spend hours in there wandering around looking at all these wonderful bits of things that now you wouldn't find in most.
Well, they still have.
Yeah, it's a lovely shop, and I was really sad to see that it's gone into administration, but they're trying to keep going, aren't they? There's a
That I didn't know, because they had a notice in the window when I drove past a couple of weeks ago saying they weren't going to reopen until July, because when we were first locked in, they were doing a delivery service, which was very nice, because at 3 o'clock they went home and they just used to deliver my cartridges onto the seat and pick up the old one.
yeah. They're trying to. They've got a crowdfunding thing going to try and get some money, and the two people that have been managing it are going to try and keep it going. And I hope
I think one of them's called David.
Yes, and the other's called Neil. Yeah, but yeah, that's what Biddles is in Daniel Butcher time. This is selling property, and it was in Bramley.
Whereabouts?
From memory, I'd have to look it up. It was on the main road, so this is on the main 281 if you're going between, say, Shalford or Guildford, Shalford, through into Bramley, and then you'd go on through, I suppose, towards Cranley.
Down towards Berkeley.
Yeah. So, and they were very, the family was very present there. They kind of spent time, and they're really in their Sheer, Bramley, Wannish, all around there. Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is that when I first qualified, I actually worked in Bramley for a time, and and then the pharmacy in Bramley used to close for an hour and a quarter for lunch. So I was actually able to go and check these monumental inscriptions for them from the West Surrey as I wandered round through my lunch break, consuming my sandwich, checking what it said on the headstones. And I had all these bloody index cards, and I just finished. And as I came out, the vicar spoke to me, and I dropped the lot. Luckily, and there wasn't a puddle, but it then took me most of the afternoon to sort them back into the order that I thought I had them in. Yes. So it was funny after then realizing that I'd been walking in the footsteps, quite literally, of my ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
So, because none of them are buried in Bramley, which is really odd, but they're not.
Mm-hmm.
So it just helps, I don't know, depends it's the way I'm wired, I guess. I like to have a list, I write it down, it just helps me think, because then it enables me to see when I don't have anything. So between 1748 and 1751, for example, I've got no reference to him. Well, he was somewhere in that period of time, I'm guessing. And he's probably in Sheer, but he might be in Bramley. I mean, he was a good enough citizen that he was paying £11, 3 shillings and sixpence to the tithe, and he gave them a guinea towards the musicians' gallery in the church at Sheer. So he was obviously the family was a respected family, but then he does something odd, and I don't know what he does, but he falls out of favour. Now, did he behave inappropriately? Did he have Alzheimer's? Which, of course, people never have known was Alzheimer's. What was it that triggered whatever it was? I'm not going to find that. So my next attempt is to go through William Bray, Reginald Bray's diaries, because the Brays were a sheer family. They held land, but also Bray was the solicitor, so the lawyer, and he's a reference in one of the documents. So I'm hoping, and from what I've read of Bray's diaries, he talks about who we had, met for dinner and that kind of stuff. And I'm hoping there's all this really, really boring stuff about what he had for dinner and how much he paid for dinner. There may just be a glimpse of Daniel Butcher in there, but I suspect it's going to be a long slog.
Would you consider looking at Albury, because Albury is on the direct road at the bottom of the downs between Bramley and Shire?
Yeah, I've at the time I went through most of these parishes, but now what I'm going to do is go back through them all over again. Which was the whole point of me looking at the Surrey Records Office catalogue, but they don't give you any significant detail in the catalogue, so that it's a very, very vague detail, unlike this West Sussex. So yeah, it's all these little bits of information. It's the stuff that you write on, I don't know, napkins if you're in a pub and that kind of thing, the vague little bits, as opposed to the official
newspapers
stuff. So newspapers. I've been through the newspapers, but I will go through them again.
Does that include the local newspapers?
Yeah, the Surrey Hour I've been through, and I may well go through it again. I've got a list, so the next time I go to Surrey at some point, I want to spend some time at the Records Office and go through it all. That's the only thing with living in the north, is that I'm so far from my stomping ground.
Yeah. Well, I find this because I live in Guildford.
I know.
I'm researching York and North Yorkshire, and a bit in Lincolnshire.
Yeah. I'm in Suffolk and I'm searching up north. I'm searching in West Yorkshire.
No, I'm in Australia and searching England.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Whereabouts are you in Australia, Yvonne?
I'm in South Australia, a little town called Cambrai, which is across the hills from Adelaide.
Right.
So I'm about an hour and 3/4 from Adelaide. And the town has 95 people. And we're considered young. That's a worry, isn't it? Oh dear, never mind.
My godson paid me the compliment. He's 50. We were talking about lockdown. He's still living in South Africa, and he said, "Oh, you can afford to lose a year of your lifetime." I said, "Thank you. I'm nearly 77, and I've outlived my parents, so I'm not sure about that."
Yes.
Right. So was there anything else you guys wanted to ask? No?
I don't think so. I think I'm going to have another look around at everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's like a lot of things, a bit like when I started to use Roots Magic, it's jumping in and just doing it. I think that's the way to do it. Learn from your mistakes, effectively.
Yeah.
Julie, the only other thing I would say is, have you tried local solicitors' records?
Bray was their solicitor, so his papers are at Surrey Archives, but his diaries have been published. And there's also some references at the Archaeological Society, which used to be, when I was a member, at the museum, but they're now somewhere in, is it Shalford they're at? I can't quite remember.
I mean, there's a big, it's not an industrial, but a big office complex is now close to the hospice.
Yeah.
And there's various solicitors' firms in there.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to Bray's papers when he died. I mean, there's a museum at Shea, and they actually have on the wall in there, though they did the last time I was there, the pedigree of the Bray family. So I'm going to go back through it all. But, you know, it's not as if, I think sometimes you go down these rabbit holes, whether it's your own family or it's someone in your study, and you stop looking at the genealogical perspective and you start researching outwards. You just look just to see what you can find. And it's only when you piece together some of those bits and pieces that actually it brings you back to what you're actually looking for. So Guildford Institute, they've got a decent library for memory. So I plan on having a good look. So I really want to come down and have a good look, but I suspect I won't be doing that this year.
No, Guildford, all Guildford stuff went to Surrey History Centre.
Yeah, but
somewhere about the early 90s, because I moved here in 88 and I researched my house and I did all that work at the Surrey Library.
Yeah.
And when I wanted to go back on a copy of a map, it had all gone to the History Centre. And the History Centre has now got rid of its library because nobody ever borrowed books from them. And I haven't been able to find their books, but then I haven't been into Woking Library.
Interesting. The Guildford Institute, though, they've still got their library, and so is the Archaeological Society Library. So I'm going to try there. But part of Bray's diaries were printed in a copy of the Archaeological Society collections, because I've got a copy right over there on the top shelf, the far corner. But to get to it, I've got to move forward 4 crates of my study. So it's on my list. But I don't suppose I'll be going south anytime soon. So
you can all, there's a spare bedroom here and it's walking distance to Guildford. The library is reopening on the 5th.
Yes, it's a long time since I've lived in Guildford. Long time.
Surrey History Centre has a reasonable sized car park that's closed on Mondays.
Yeah, they I don't know, the last few times I called them for something, Duncan used to answer the phone quite often, but he's retired now. But yeah, well, I don't know if he was retired.
There's somebody called Jane there who's very bright and bushy-tailed because she comes to the West Surrey Family History Fairs and she's usually dressed up in period costume. And Julian Poole regularly comes to give talks at Woking because the Guildford branch of West Surrey folded.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. This is the trouble, is that you can't get people to do things.
No. My trouble was, I'm very sorry, but I didn't like the building they met in.
They used to meet, when I lived in Guildford, they used to meet at St Nicholas. Did they stop meeting there?
Yes, they were meeting in the Quaker meeting house.
The Quaker meeting house?
Next door to Biddle's, opposite the Institute.
Ah, is that where it is? The Quaker meeting house. That's interesting.
It's got the public loos on the corner of its, what was its property.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. So I'm just writing myself a note.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Right. Well, if you don't mind, ladies, I'm going to fold this. Do you find this better, worse, the same as the chats, out of interest?
I
it's
prefer
being
this.
able to see people.
Yeah.
And also the conversation flows better because no one knows if somebody's typing something.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I used to teach at a university and had online chat typed.
Yeah.
And you have to become very adept at remembering what someone said when it's 3 or 4 people further down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this way, if someone's talking, then you wait until they've finished.
Yeah. It highlights
so
who's speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you finish a conversation before you get a different question, instead of the questions all coming fast and furious.
Yeah, it takes a bit of getting used to. I mean, I prefer this type of environment. I don't know. I mean, you know, as tutors, we're supposed to use the chat facility, but Karen's a bit more upbeat, I think, in terms of technology. So it may well change in time. I do hope it does, but you know, I've got some students that love the old technology in terms of chat, and I've got others who are, you know, not so keen on it. Some have been very scathing, but you know, you can't please everyone. But it was just out of interest.
Yeah, no,
I mean, I don't
this.
mind either.
Yeah.
What chat is better at is you don't start to lose things if your internet is a bit dodgy at times. I lost a little bit partway through because obviously the connection slipped for me, but then came back. Because I'm in a very old house and the stone walls don't let things through very easily.
I know.
Because I'm hardwired into my modem, I don't lose very much.
Yeah. And that's the trouble, because I'm on the Mac, which has a camera, whereas my desktop, I have to get a connected camera to put it on. But that's hardwired, so the internet's better on it, but then I don't get the video.
Yeah.
But is your Mac on a tablet or a laptop?
It's a desktop, and it's a very old one that the university was getting rid of.
Yes, no, I was only thinking as to whether you could, because you can get very long cables. Yes. I used to have one that went from the modem. Yeah. I don't know. There was a whole floor in between them.
I actually have a long one going to my PC desktop, so I probably could just unplug it from there and put it in the Mac while I'm on Zoom.
I think you'll find you won't.
Good idea.
Because old houses do have. When I was in my previous house, there were certain areas you couldn't even get a mobile signal indoors.
We have that too.
When people were trying to help me with the computer when I first had it, it wouldn't work wirelessly.
No, we have that problem with 14-inch thick walls. Mm-hmm. Keeps nice and warm though. And cool in summer.
Yeah.
Right, well, I'm going to close the recording.
Okay.
I will make it